author of?
Well, I wrote one before Firefly took over. I self-published my very first one, and then Firefly Publishing Company, somebody in Canada, this author of a Monarch book, Carol, took it into the president of Firefly, and I was in Corpus Christi at my daughter's house at Christmas time, and I got a phone call, and it was Lionel, and he says, I'm the owner of Firefly Publishing Company, and I just seen your book, and I'd like to publish it. I'm like, what? And he said, I'll send you a contract and see if you want. And it was so much fun working with their design team and their editors, because the editor would go, what do you mean by this? And so I'd have to make it a little bit clearer. And so I just had a ball with them. So yeah, now it's through Firefly Publishing Company.
She's also the founder of the Butterfly House at Parsons Nursery in Westland. If you've ever been out that way, it's a wonderful place. It really is. You just sit there and the butterflies are flitting all over the place, and you see caterpillar. And her house is a veritable butterfly and moth nursery of every kind. If you have an opportunity, she lives in Westland. You have a number of open houses during the
Yeah, and anybody can come. It doesn't matter if it's one person or a whole garden group, or I welcome everybody, because I love showing them my habitat and talking to them about different species. So yep, I even have neighborhood kids that are coming over, and I'm giving them caterpillars to raise. And so yeah, I just, anybody that wants to come is welcome anytime to my home. I also, back in 2007, I co-founded the Southeast Michigan Butterfly Association. Yeah, so yeah. And I'm a monarch watch conservation specialist and da-da-da. I've been doing it for 26 years. And I go to Monarch, or I go to Mexico every year and take people to see the monarch butterflies. And you know why I do all this stuff? Because I got a degree in electronic engineering technology. That's
not more about butterflies and moths than most other
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so yep.
Are we to go? Yeah, we're trying to, you're gonna see on there, it says turn up the volume and the meeting is being recorded. He's trying to figure out which to put them, but he hasn't had any luck so far. We have been streaming both video and sound online, so that the online attendees did hear the Brenda's introduction. So, right.
But
so we'll just learn to ignore those buttons.
Can you just click OK?
It's not on that screen, it's just on that screen.
oh, that's not good.
Here. Sorry, my legs don't always work.
Okay, just proceed and.
Yeah, it's probably going to interfere with some of the words on here, though. So it's, you know, it's gonna be in front of words that are on my, yeah.
Some point,
The recording just shows the PowerPoint. You can see what's being recorded on that laptop over there.
So the recording that will be preserved to be reviewed later will not have those.
No.
But people are gonna miss what's on here.
Yeah. Oh.
Woo-hoo.
Where the screen was. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Oh,
We've been trying for, I'm gonna just take a half minute and then it's all yours,
Okay.
Brenda. We've been trying to both be more accessible by letting people participate by Zoom and also record our presentations so people can watch them online. And these two folks over here have been really valuable in that. They are great. And I don't know your names.
Shell and Scott,
Shell and Scott.
they make the magic happen for $1,000.
Okay.
okay, well,
You, Brenda.
here we go. So, yep, we're gonna talk all about what we need to attract butterflies and moths to our gardens. Okay. What's going on now? Because my thing should be working. It was working before.
When it happens at home or something like it. You get
Yeah, because I've got that
errors.
plugged in. And it's not advancing. It always does. There it is now. Now it is. Okay, here we go. Yay! So anyways, you know, you need to find out what butterflies and moths are in your area so that you can plant for them. Because, well, I'll get to that part later, I guess. I think of so many things that aren't even on there that I can just go on forever. But anyhow, so you can ask people like myself. You can, go to different butterfly and moth Facebook pages. This here I really like though, butterfliesandmoths.org. If you go, that's good for anywhere. So if you have a home, say you have a winter home in New Mexico or whatever, you can go to butterfliesandmoths.org. And then you're going to go ahead and go down to regional checklist. And then what you'll do, if you want butterflies, you'll click butterflies here. If you want moths, you'll click moth. If you want both of them, you click any. Then you put in your region, you put in your state, and you put in your county, and you hit apply. And you'll get this long list of species. And if you click on the Latin name, it will show you the species. It will tell you all about it. It will tell you what host plants it needs. So you know what to plant for whatever species to attract them into your garden. So this is what my backyard used to look like over 25 years ago. Occasionally a cabbage white would flutter through. Well, then 26 years ago, I got interested in this. Well, now, and not today, because my plants are just starting to grow, but well, figuratively, now my backyard looks like this. So in the backyard, I just have little paths of grass around my gardens, just so that people know exactly. I don't like grass. I got rid of it all in the front yard, but I just have pine bark nuggets now. But this way, people stay on the path. So, I ran out of room in the backyard. I'm like, well, what good is this? This doesn't support anything. Tulips don't support any kind of insecta. Those grass, Japanese beetles, and then bushes, who needs them? So, well, had to get rid of that. So now, and I got rid of my boulevard too. So I'm just keeping city regulations are 3 foot, so I comply with them, and I just have to have all the different plants in there. So anyhow, we're gonna talk about creating the habitat now. And most species need at least 6 hours of sun. So you want to try to find locations. There's some like swamp milkweed will grow in the shade in the sun, and wet or dry, it doesn't matter. Poke milkweed, you know, there's different ones. You have different ones of asters and all sorts of things that will grow in the shade, but a lot of your plants need full sun. So try to find an area with 6 hours or more. And of course, I don't really need to tell you all this since we're all into native plants, but you want to water them until the roots are established. And once they're established, then you don't even have to fertilize them. You save a lot of money with native plants because you don't need to buy fertilizer. You don't need to do watering. I never water the only one I do is my pawpaw tree because it likes wet feet. It's usually next to a river. And I only have one. But when I wasn't watering it all the time, my fruit was drying up and falling off when it was tiny. Now I get fruit off my pawpaw tree. So anyways, y'all have probably seen this picture zillions of times. And, and that's why, here's a grass over here. That's why you have to water that. Beautiful native plants provides so much, work to our ecosystem. They're just really cool. So I try, because like over 450 of those pictures mine. So I like to do photography. And plus, I know what plants are host plants. So if I see a butterfly at a host plant and I see her touching it, they taste with their feet. I know she's going to lay an egg. And I do like to bring in some of the eggs and raise them. And I share them like with my neighborhood kids and stuff too. And they get so excited because they get to raise butterflies. But I put the bigger ones in the back so I can really see what's going on in the garden. But that's just, my preference. Also, you want to plant them in groups because butterflies and moths are nearsighted. So if you have them in groups, it's easier for them to see. Of course, if it's a spice bush, you don't need 3 spice bush. But if it's golden Alexander for the black swallowtail, if you just have one golden Alexander and it lays eggs on that caterpillar hatches, there's not going to be enough food for it to complete its metamorphosis. So you want to, plant at least groups of 3. Multiple locations will prevent as much predation because like if I have just my swamp milkweed right here and a predator sees the caterpillars, it's more likely to eat them all there. But if I have some swamp milkweed here and then I got some over here and I got some golden Alexander here and there, it's less chance of all the species being eliminated, so it helps on predation that way. And butterflies and moths are cold-blooded insects. And so, well, there are some nocturnal moths, and they fly when it's cooler and stuff. But your diurnal ones, they need to heat up their wing muscles in order to fly. So they can sit on things to warm themselves up. Or sometimes you'll see the butterflies doing this, and they're vibrating their wing muscles, and that heats them up so they can fly too. So here we have painted lady sunning itself on Mr. Toad, and we have the monarch sunning itself on Monarch Way Station, and I am the first Monarch Way Station in Michigan. I keep fruit out for my butterflies. Right now, I brought it in the garage before we left, but I have watermelon out and I have a banana out. And there's nutrients in fruit. There's quite a few species that like to feed on overripe fruit. So I keep my watermelon like that, and then at night I can just pick up the dish and take it in the garage so I don't get critters eating it. And then what I do is I get a banana and I get one of these bags and I leave the pill on. That way I don't have to replace that banana for like a week. And then I just take my fingernail and I make a slit, just a slit down the one side. And you can see, well, this time I put a piece of watermelon in a suet, or suet cage, and Viceroy was nectaring, but here we got the question mark butterfly and the red admiral. They're just feeding on it. So I do that all the time. And bananas are cheap to, and watermelon, you buy a big one, you can cut it in several hunks, and when it gets stinky, they don't care. But if I'm having a garden walk, I might want to throw that in the garbage and put a nice one out. And this is what I used to do. You can still do it, but having like the banana open, that dries up and gets hard in no time. And I'd buy cantaloupe, and wouldn't eat it all. I'd leave some for, the butterflies. And this is a red spotted purple. This is a Nessa Sphinx moth. It's on watermelon. So you can do that too, but I just now do the bananas and the watermelon. A place to puddle is important because they get sodium and potassium out of damp, mulch and sand and soil and stuff. And those minerals help with reproduction. So it also, with them puddling, it helps convert the fats into sugars, so so it enables them to fly. So these are some species that are puddling. So we have the spice bush swallowtail, we have the painted lady, the juvenile's dusky wing, and its silver spotted skipper. Nectar plants, they're food for butterflies and moths. And so they contain carbohydrates and amino acids, and that's needed for egg production.
Failed to ask, do you want questions as you go?
Oh yeah, if people have questions, because a lot of times you might forget your question at the end of the talk. Yes.
The puddling, do you put anything in the soil, or is it a special kind of soil?
It doesn't matter what kind of soil, and I used to, but I'm really busy, and they get morning dew, and that helps. But I do have an area that I took some pond liner, and I dug it out a little bit, and then I put a whole bunch of little rocks, and so every once in a while, if I remember, I'll just put water in there, but not so they're going to drown, just so that they can get the minerals. And then there's a little bit of sand in there too, and just whatever's have fallen in, leaves, and all that good kind of plant material.
Clay soil.
Yep. Yep, it will. Yep. I live in Westland, it's clay too. So yeah. Okay. So these are just some of the nectar sources. You got the bergamot and prairie phlox and coneflower. And Canada goldenrod and milkweed, and we have New England asters. Black-eyed Susan, swamp milkweed. And look at the little moth there. That's a hummingbird clearwing. Yep. And I think that's a yellow-caped moth. I think that's the name of it. You have to forgive me. Sometimes I forget the names of all the different species. But yeah, butterfly weed and blue mist flower. And wild indigo. Okay, maybe that one is, because those two are different. We got more swamp milkweed. We have Coreopsis, Sweet Williams, and Joe Pye weed and ironweed. This is what's most important. If you have nectar sources, yeah, they might come in, take a drink, and then they're going to leave. Because the females are going to try to look for a place that has host plants, and your males will patrol in that area waiting for the females. So the males will be in the areas where the host plants are too, because they know the females are going to be there laying eggs. So host plants are really important. And well, you can read that, the caterpillars eat it and all that stuff. They lay their eggs on them. So I have several trees in my yard, and I want a sun garden. So every fall, I used to do it shorter, and the next picture shows them shorter, but every fall before there's a chance of frost, I take my trees, except for my nannyberry viburnum, that one's in a pot. But I take my hop tree, my oak tree, my cherry tree, my tulip poplar, and oh, I got hackberry too. And I cut them down to about this tall. That's about 3 feet before there's a chance of frost. So instead of having a tulip tree 80 to 100 feet tall, I have a bush tree. And at the end of the season, I can get my 6-foot step ladder and climb up there and still find eastern tiger swallowtail eggs, find tulip tree silk moth eggs, promethea eggs. So that way I end up with bush trees and I still have a sun garden. So this is how short I used to, but I wanted them to start having leaves a little bit earlier, so now I do it about 3 feet. That used to be like about 2 feet. I also, just because I like to have every host plant there is, and I have a tiny yard, I have to put them in pots too. So I have all these different trees and pots, so I just have multiple places for all these different species to lay their eggs. Yes. Ah, next picture. In the winter, I take them, I get a dolly because they're kind of heavy and I'm kind of old. And I move them back to the back of my house. That's just a few of them in that picture. But then I pack leaves on top of them and in between them. And they're, and the pots are a little bit thick. And then with the leaves on them in between them, it further insulates them. And that way when it snows, they get moisture. When it rains, they get moisture. And then in the spring, I get my dolly and I move them back to the driveway. So we're going to meet some of the butterflies and moths that we can create habitat for now. So this is a monarch, and I don't know why. Oh, there we go. This one's a monarch. And this just shows the eggs. And a lot of a lot of your books will say they lay on the underneath of the leaf, or they lay. Well, it isn't on the underside of the leaf. Sometimes it'll be on the stem, sometimes on the top. And when you have really tight flower buds, as you can see, they lay on the flower buds. My poke milkweed's already getting flower buds on it. That's the only one though, just my poke. And this shows, the species when they first come out of their egg, they're like 3/32 of an inch. And this is the last instar. Instars are stages of growth. They have exoskeletons and they can only get so big. And so they shed their skin like 5 times. And this is the last instar before they'll shed their skin, and underneath it is a chrysalis and it will harden. And caterpillars all have these prolegs, but they only have 3 sets of true legs. They'll lose their prolegs. They'll lose their simple eyes that can only see light and dark. In the chrysalis, the wing pads are already formed, the antennas are already formed, the proboscis is already, a proboscis is this drinking tube, is already formed, but the rest of it will liquefy, the molecules will rearrange, it will develop a reproductive system, and all that takes place inside of that chrysalis. And then monarchs, like 9-10 days later, they're all developed and they come out of their chrysalis, and then you have the butterfly.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm assuming you have all those species. Do you see monarchs on all of them, or do you see more monarch caterpillars on one species over the others?
If I had common milkweed, but my yard's too little, I would find a lot on that. I have poke milkweed, I have purpurascens, I have tuberosa. Incarnata, I find oodles of eggs on swamp milkweed.
Incarnate? Yeah.
Yep. I hardly ever find it on tuberosa. It's a great nectar source. Yes. Oh no, swamp milkweed, you can grow in the sun, in the shade, in wet or dry. Mine's all in dry. Well, I do have a little bit behind the garage too, so it's in shade and more wet, but yeah.
So if you only have a choice of one, you probably want to go with the swamp milkweed.
I do, because my yard's little and I love common milkweed for feeding the caterpillars. They got great big old leaves, but it would pop up all over my yard and I'm just kind of fussy and I kind of like, okay, I want these plants here. Okay, now I want these. I don't want this plant here, all over. So that's the only reason why I don't. It's a great plant. And if you have area for it, I recommend it.
I have some memory of milkweed takes more than 1 year to flower. You plant it and it takes more than 1 year to flower, so you shouldn't expect to attract the first year.
Well, monarchs will lay on it. Don't matter if it's this big.
Flower.
Oh yeah, they don't need the flowers. No, they like the tender plant. I think it was it Michigan State or U of M recommended that around July, and I don't do it, that you cut your milkweed down a little so you get fresh growth. I don't do it because they just lay so many eggs anyway. So I have milkweed all over the place. Was it okay? Okay, yeah, I knew one of them told us to do that because I used to be a member of the Michigan Entomological Society at Michigan State University too. Okay. That was a lot of fun working with all those professors. Anyways, this is butterfly weed. This is tuberosa. And this is when I used to do it, somebody threw away these beautiful pots. And so I just picked them up. And see, I just have a little bit of room in between my garage and the neighbor's fence. And so I didn't want the rhizomes to go into their yard. So I put saucers underneath, but I just quit doing that. But that worked.
Is that over?
Yeah, they did. Yep. So I might have even took this picture at maybe at Mathite, maybe. I might have took it here. This is a poke milkweed, and my flowers aren't open yet, but they got the buds on them. This is Asclepias exultata.
What butterfly eats part of the leaf?
The butterfly don't eat the caterpillar, the monarchs. These are all host plants for the monarchs. Yeah, these are all milkweed. Yep. And this is a swamp milkweed. This is the one that I have all over. And so even though it's a perennial, it doesn't live forever. And so I let some of the seed pods ripen and fall, so I always have new plants. So if you don't want new plants, cut off the seed pods. But I always let some fall all over because I always want to have new plants starting. Even though this is a perennial and it lives for quite a few years, it doesn't live forever. This is a black swallowtail, and this is a little stinker that's snuck in my yard several days ago and laid eggs, and I didn't know it. And today I seen one little caterpillar about that big. And then I seen eggs. I'm like, okay. And then I seen her in my yard again today. So yeah, she snuck in there when I was busy doing other stuff. I didn't even know she was there. And this is what their eggs look like. And the different instars of the caterpillar. So you can see this one here, like I said, they molt. This one, it just pulled out of its old skin and dropped its old face capsule, and it will darken up. But yeah,
These are just by you, Brenda?
yeah,
Great.
thank you. Yep. So yeah, their host plant is Golden Alexander. So yeah, this is what Golden Alexanders look like. This is the American lady, and she's already flown up here from South America and already been laying eggs on my pussy toes and on my pearly everlasting. They overwinter in Central America. So the ones in the Vanessa family, so the painted lady, American lady, the red admiral. And so I haven't seen any red admirals yet, but she's been laying eggs all over. And these eggs are really, really little. They're only 1/64 of an inch. And years ago, I could go out and find them like this. Well, then the butterfly, she says, oh, I got your number. I'm gonna make them smaller. So she started laying them smaller. So then I had to wear bifocals. And she's going, oh, no, no, no. I'm even gonna go smaller. So then I had to use bifocals and a magnifying glass. And then she did it again. And I'm like, oh no, we're not playing your game no more. So this is what I do now. I wait until they hatch because they have caterpillars have spinnerets that produce silk. And the caterpillar will stitch the leaf together to protect itself from predators. So when I see the leaf stitched together, I know there's a caterpillar and I get it that way. So I outsmarted that butterfly. So these are things that it lays its eggs on. So this is my pearly everlasting and my pussy toes. This is giant swallowtail. And this is North America's one of our largest butterflies that we have. And this is the egg of the giant. And their defense from predators is they look like bird droppings. So no bird's going to want to eat them. So this is hop tree. And some people call it wafer ash, you know, same thing. And this is my prickly ash. And it does sucker, but I just break off my suckers just the same as with my pawpaw tree. I've already broke off 3 suckers from my pawpaw tree this year already because I don't need my whole yard to be pawpaw. So I break off the suckers of my prickly ash and break them off from my pawpaw tree. And this is the pearl crescent. And they lay a group of eggs. And the only thing they lay their eggs on are asters. So this is heart-leafed aster. I think I forgot to buy some of this today. I bought some other ones. I got to redo one section of my boulevard. So I was at Wild Type Native Plant Nursery buying a slew of plants. This is sky blue aster. And smooth aster. And calico aster. This is a pipevine swallowtail that's been eating me out of house and home. Yes.
All of these plants, any of these plants,
Do I have what?
problem with deer?
Oh, I have a privacy fence around the backyard, so they can't even get in. So it's my little oasis, but they've never been in the front yard. So yeah,
Thank you.
so yeah, it's like nobody lives around me. It's my own little island. And these guys, they eat plants in the Aristolochia family, and the chemicals in there make them toxic to birds. So the birds won't eat my caterpillars, they won't eat my butterflies. And I literally, I forget what year, was it 2012? I can't remember. I got the paper from the University of Toronto, but we hadn't seen pipevine in this area. But I planted my, it used to be called Aristolochia duria, and I also have Virginia snakewort, because Aristolochia macrophylla duria was introduced into this area, and I believe, I don't think it came quite up this far, but I planted some. And I'm looking out my side window and I'm like, what is that black swallowtail doing at my Dutchman's pipe? I got my binoculars. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a pipevine. And ever since, and that same year, they made it all the way up to Toronto, because I've got the research paper from the University of Toronto that they made it. And now every year, they lay hundreds of eggs. So I post on Facebook, I'm giving away pipevine eggs, and I've only given away 30 so far this year. So they're just on their own. If they eat all my plants, they eat all my plants. But yeah, this is pipevine swallowtail. And they lay clusters of eggs. And when they're small, they eat communally, and then when they get bigger, they're solitary feeders. And in the butterfly house that I built, we had pipevine swallowtails, and I'd pick up one and I'd let the kids touch it, and I'd say, touch it, doesn't it feel like a gummy worm? And they go, yeah, it does. And the kids would have so much fun. So this is my Virginia snakelet. And I don't know if it's still endangered in Michigan, but I don't know why it is, if it is, because ants will eat, they develop the seeds right down at the ground, and they'll chew them out, and they'll chew them, and then they have to come out somehow. And I'll find it growing in my front yard. I'll find it growing here, growing there. I started with 3 little plants, and now I got a whole bunch. And so, yeah. So I don't know if it's still endangered, but I don't know why it is, if it is, because, huh? Oh, no, not at all. This is a mourning cloak. That's our longest living butterfly. It lives 12 months. It overwinters in crevices of trees and wood piles, overhangs of buildings, a lot of times up at Wham. In March, if the sap was dripping on the trees and we were walking down to the restaurant down the corner, we're walking along, we'd see mourning cloaks, and they break diapause. They come out of hibernation. We see them flutter, and they'll go over and feed on some sap, and then they go back into hibernation. But a lot of times at the WEM, Wildflower Association of Michigan conference, we'd see them in March. And these guys lay a group of eggs. So when they first lay them, they're yellow. Then as they're developing, they turn red, and then they turn black. And it's been many years since I see them in my yard, but they haven't been laying eggs. And last summer, it was very hot, and one was feeding on my watermelon. Well, after a little bit, it flew to my prairie willow, and I thought, it's either seeking shade because it's so hot, or it's laying eggs. So I went in the garage, and I looked out the side window, and she laid me a slew of eggs. I'm like, yes. So hopefully I should see several around, because, yeah, she blessed me last year. So, and these guys, these are plants that they lay their eggs on. And these caterpillars have ADD. I don't know how they can even bother eating, because they're continually moving around. And I'm like, will you slow down? I'm trying to take your picture. And this is as clear as I could get it, because they wouldn't, they're just hyper. So this is my hackberry tree. And this is where my baby laid eggs last year, on my prairie willow right above my waterfall. This butterfly is called a question mark. It has a comma and a dot on the underside of its wing. So the lepidopters that discovered it called it a question mark. And these are question mark eggs. They'll either lay them singly or they'll stack them. I've had as big of a stack as 6 before. And these are the different instars of the caterpillar. And here's some of the things that they lay their eggs on. So they lay on the common hops, on false nettle, hackberry, stingy nettle, and I keep that in a pot. And the reason why I do, the question mark, the eastern comma, they overwinter as adults. And the red admiral has flown up here from Central America. And my false nettle is not, it's just starting to come up. Where my stinging nettle is about this tall already. So they have places to lay their eggs before my false nettle comes up. So I know how to grab the leaf without getting stung. Doesn't mean I haven't got stung before, but, and if I do, I just go, and I get the thing out and it quits, or I could take some narrow leaf from plantain and rub the juice on there and get rid of it, but I usually just scrape it out with my teeth. This is a red spotted purple. And they lay on the tip of the leaf, or if a leaf has been torn and there's a tip there, they'll lay there. So that way you will know if there's a caterpillar there or had been, because they'll eat along, do I have a picture? Well, not a, I should have put a better one. They'll eat along the mid vein, and so just the mid vein will be there, and then the leaf will be down here. So that way you know if is a caterpillar, or if there's not the caterpillar there, somebody already ate it. But when they get bigger, now they're looking like bird poop again, so that's their defense from predators. So this is my black cherry they lay eggs on. And they lay on cottonwood. And on willows. This is a spice bush swallowtail. I've released quite a few of those that are overwintered, but I haven't found no eggs yet on my spice bush. I'm like, okay, you guys, where'd you go? So this is what the eggs look like. And this caterpillar is so darn cute. I don't know if you've ever seen a spice bush swallowtail caterpillar, but he's just adorable. Look at him, isn't he cute? Oh, look, he's got the cutest little smile down here. Actually, those are eye spots, and actually his head is this black spot down here. But birds think he's a tree snake and they won't eat him. That's his defense from predators. So when they first come out of their egg, they eat their eggshell. That's one of their first meals. And then they're brown, and then they're green, and right before they make their chrysalis, they're either a yellow or orangish yellow. So this is spice bush, or sure it is. That's sassafras. Senior moment. Okay. This is spice bush. This is the eastern tiger swallowtail. And these are the eggs. And they're cute, but not as cute as the spice bush. They have smaller eye spots. And here's what they lay their eggs on cherry and on tulip poplar. This is a red admiral. And this is the egg of the red admiral. That's really small too. I had to really blow that up so you could see it. And here's the different instars and things that they lay their eggs on. So false nettle again. Stinging nettle. And this is a hummingbird clearing. I've released a couple of those this year, but I haven't found any, eggs yet. And this is a diurnal. This moth flies during the day. So, we have some moths that are diurnal and a lot of them are nocturnal, but this one flies during the day. And this is the egg of the hummingbird clearwing. And the different instars, and they lay their eggs on viburnum. So I have my nannyberries in pots because I ran out of room. They don't mind. They lay lots of eggs on my nannyberry. This is a snowberry clearwing, and I've released quite a few of those, and I was blessed to find 8 eggs already of those. And it looks a lot like the hummingbird clearwing, but it has less scales on its wings. Its color is a little more yellow. And plus, a side view, it has a black line that goes from its eye down here, and the hummingbird clearwing doesn't. So a lot of people get them confused, and even some authors put that the hummingbird clearwing will feed, host plant is snowberry and native honeysuckle. I got a lot of eggs. I sacrificed them to see, and they do not. The snowberry. So I think whoever wrote, and then other people will just look at author's book and then put it in their book without even trying it. And so, no, so in my book, I've got notation that they may, I didn't say it meanly. I said, they may be confused, or I don't remember exactly, but I said it nice. But yeah, so anyways, this is a snowberry clearwing egg. So I've done that with a few different things that people said that, like they'd say on the wild ginger, the pipe vine. Oh, I have hundreds of those eggs. I say, they don't eat that, they die. As soon as the egg hatch, I give them the wild ginger. They're like, so anyways, this is what they lay their eggs on, and this is the instars. So this is my coralberry and my red honeysuckle. This is the polyphemus, and I've only released one male so far. I'm waiting for a female to come out so I can cage her and attract a male. So I can have a few of those eggs and raise them again. So they lay a whole bunch of eggs. And these are the different instars, and those are they're host plants. So this is my chickapin oak. And my prairie willow. This is a cecropia. None of those have come out of their cocoons yet either. And they lay a bunch of eggs too. And these are the different instars. You can see this last picture on my hand. Well, if the thing ain't in the way, they get pretty big. And so these are things that they lay their eggs on. So, yep, they lay on cherry and on dogwood and on willow. This is a Luna, and I'm glad they haven't come out of their cocoons yet, because the black walnut trees are just barely getting little bitty leaves on. Usually this time of the year, they're bigger, so I don't know why they're so small. Even when I was up at Wild Type Native Plant Nursery, right when you pull in the driveway, they have the black walnut tree there. So far, I haven't had it. I had the arrowwood viburnum, and they did. And so I got the nannyberry, and I've had that for probably 4 or 5 years, and I haven't had them touch it. So, yeah, they were attacking my arrowwood bad. But anyways, I usually the black walnut leaves are really a lot bigger by now. So.
Small property?
No, but my church is 7/10 of a mile away from my house, and they got a whole bunch of them on their property. So Pastor Gary don't care if I go over there. So, yep. So last year I went over to the church, and I got 2 black walnuts, because a walnut tree was growing in my yard. Well, a lot of people feed their squirrels English walnuts that you buy at the store. So it started growing. I put it in a pot, and it had big leaves, and I'm raising the Lunas. I picked it off and gave it to them. They went, "We will not eat this." I'm like, fine. So that went in the garbage. So anyways, I got 2 black walnut seeds from underneath the black walnut tree, and I put them in a pot. So I'm waiting for one of them to come up this year. These are the different instars of the Luna. And this is on sweet gum. And there's black walnut. This is a Promethea. Yep, we have the female and the male, and you can tell which one's a female. She's full of eggs, and he's a darker brown. And here's their eggs. And here's the different instars of them and things that they lay their eggs on. So, yep, on spice bush. And on tulip poplar. Oh, this rosy maple. Look at it on my thumb. Isn't it cute? It's just so cute. It's pink and yellow, and I just think it's the cutest little thing. And these are their eggs, and you can actually see the caterpillar developing in them. First they're like this, now you can see its little head and its little body. You know, there's its head and there's its body, so you can actually watch them developing right in their eggshell. And these are, they use red maple, silver maple, and sugar maple. So this is silver maple and sugar maple. And this is some list of some places that you can get native plants from. And it's easy to start planting and you'll have them in your yard. And more information, if you want, can be found in my book, or you know, you can go to different websites. And that's the end. Thank you. Yes.
When you get all these pictures of that and so are you looking for eggs after you see butterflies in an area or?
Well, I wasn't even looking for the snowberry. Well, I knew the snowberry I had to release them several days before, and I just thought, oh, I'm gonna go look. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 8 eggs. So yeah, and I didn't know the black swallowtail was in my yard, and I'm was doing a little bit of weeding. I'm like, there's an egg. When does she sneak in here? And then today I went and I'm like, I seen a little teeny caterpillar this big. I'm like, well, she's been, and then today I seen her in the yard. So, you know, I've been so busy, I haven't had a lot of time to hang out in the yards. So I really don't know what's in my yard except the pipeline swallowtails. I see them laying eggs all the time, but yeah. But when I have time, then I see what's in the yard and I'll be looking. Yes. Uh-huh. No, no, I have all sorts, in my yard, I have all sorts of different kind of bees and insects and everybody just, they're all happy together. It's a very nice ecosystem they have. Yes. Oh, well, yeah, and sedges. I don't have any. I just bought some more sedges today, and I have like little blue stem and different things. And different there's different skippers that lay their eggs on these different plants. So, yeah, some of those are host plants. So, yep.
Do you talk about the grasses or sedges in?
I didn't. I didn't. I'm sorry.
Next volume.
Yep.
I have a question. If you could speak a little bit about the non-natives or the near native plants. You know, some people are planting all of these like echinacea and stuff and thinking they're going to get all these different butterflies.
Well, you have to be really careful if it's not native because plants can be genetically altered so that they have a different scent, they have a different color, and some of these may not even produce any nectar. So you have to really be careful. I like to get pure ones myself because that way I know our species evolved on those plants, and so I know that they're able to complete their metamorphosis on them. But yeah, different plants have been genetically altered, and so you don't know what has been eliminated, you know, to them.
They're calling everything pollinators.
Yeah.
Their ads and even on the tags.
Yeah.
You're doing what?
Yes, ma'am.
There's so many Norway maples. Do the ones that use maples, can they use Norway maples or do they reject them?
No, the polyphemus and the cecropia will, they'll use Norway maple. Yeah, I do. That was, when I moved in that house in 2000, there was a Norway maple. And so I do feed my polyphemus and cecropias that. And then my second, they only get one brood of cecropia. Then, because I can just go in the front yard. Then my second brood of polyphemus, then my chicken pen oak, I give them oak leaves. Yes.
And
Oh, okay. Yes. You're welcome.
And I would add that there are additional sources of native plants shown on the Wild Ones Art Chapters website as well, including, I know, feral flora in Ann Arbor and, of course, wild type, what you, wild type. There's one in Manchester, but it's not just native.
Windy Rock.
Anyway, yeah, Windy Rock has native plants as well as non-native.
Okay.
So it's, the nursery and supply of native plants is growing, and it's a
Yes.
really happy thing for us. And the more they grow, the more people can grow native plants, and the more people growing native plants, the more we can support the nurseries.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm a little frustrated because for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been planting native host plants. I've got most of the plants that you're talking about up there. I've got mature trees. I've got sun, I've got shade, I've got every kind of milkweed that you talked about, including poke milkweed. And I get very, very, very few butterflies. I've seen.
Is it shade?
I've got shade and sun. I've got mature trees. I've got sunny gardens. I've got water.
Yeah.
You know, a pond, so you have a place to puddle. And I get very few butterflies. I've seen a morning glow. And a cabbage white this year so far. That's it. And last year I saw very few. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, if you got the host plants, because the first time I planted the little Baptisia tinctoria, indigo, a little the wild indigo. Is that the yellow one? It's in what? Yeah, no, just yellow. It's just, it was only this big, and I'd never seen a wild indigo dusky wing in my yard ever. And it was laying eggs on it. So I just plant the host plants and they come.
I get them from wild pipe, so I know that they're true.
Yeah.
Area of them. And I've got agricultural land around me and.
Well, do they spray? Okay, well, then hopefully the wind see, I am blessed. My neighbor on this side, and behind me do nothing with their yards. So I don't have pesticides coming. So I'm blessed because the wind can drift. I don't know why that would happen, because normally if you plant the host plants, I mean, they should be there, but if you're not seeing the eggs right away, there's things eating them.
Well, I'm not seeing butterflies.
Yeah.
I'm seeing not only
Yeah.
eggs, which I could easily miss because it's a big yard.
Yeah,
But I'm not seeing butterflies, and it's really frustrating. I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm doing wrong.
yeah. No, but having the host plants, you're doing it right. Yes.
Is it important to turn off your outside lights at night?
Oh, yeah, and Doug will tell you that, on Doug Ptolemy. If you're going to, the UV rays of a yellow light bulb will not affect the moths. So if you have to have a light bulb, use a yellow one. The other ones are bad. So, yep, yes.
You started some swamp outreach seeds this winter, and you showed a picture. How wide you are.
Oh, that was really, really old. It's just gonna be, that one was old. So, yep, mine are just coming up straight little, yeah. Yes.
So over the winter, get things ready for the springtime for them?
No.
Trees blow?
Well, the only thing, I don't do nothing special. When leaves fall off that Norway maple, I get them and I throw them in the garden. I don't know. I don't do anything. There's no work.
Hey, you don't have to do anything.
No. No, I don't do
They
anything.
die and they come back.
Huh?
You do cut your tree?
Oh, yeah, those trees I do, I cut down to 3 feet. And I check, make sure nothing's on them before they go out to the,
It's tall trees,
yeah.
you just won't see them, right?
oh, yeah, they will.
If you
Like,
don't
yeah,
wanna cut your trees.
Yeah.
you can-
but I wanted a sun garden, so that's why I do.
Do you cut back your potted plants before you, I'm in a condo, so I'm gonna have to do. potted
Okay,
plants.
and I don't cut them back, but, I didn't cover that in here. I think I did in my book. When they start, yeah, I did. When, the tree starts failing, I pull them out of the pot and I chop off 1/3 of the roots. And then I remove the soil. This was my black willow. And I cut it way back because it's less, affects it less, it's less stress on it when you remove the roots like that, and I repot it, and then it will start growing, it'll be a lot better. Yes. The what? Oh. I'm sure it is, but I don't know.
I do feel your pain though. I planted everything in my backyard and I rarely see the butterflies. I do see monarchs more on my common milkweed than my swamp milkweed. But I'm just assuming something's eating them, and that's why I plant everything for
Yeah.
something to eat it. I just don't see it.
I got lots of birds.
Yeah,
Oh, there you
And
go.
it's important.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, because you figure anywhere from 1 to 10% of all eggs laid become adults. And say if a monarch, because they can lay up to 500 eggs. If all of them made it, they would go extinct because there'd be no milkweed left anywhere. And so 1 to 10% actually out of that 500 will make it. And the rest are food for our songbirds, are for our dragonflies, are for our frogs, our toads. The list goes on and on. So it's very important to have the cat. I don't bring everyone in the house. They're out there for the whole ecosystem, so keep everything in balance.
And Brenda's only shown the more showy caterpillars and moths, but there's dozens of species of moths that they don't even have a common name for,
Yep.
and those are bird food. They eat the same plants.
That sounds frustrating.
Yep.
I know the birds
When-
get caterpillars, not seeing the adults. That is frustrating.
When you bring them in the house, how do you bring them in the house and what are they in?
Oh, the eggs?
Yeah.
I have little teeny plastic cups, and I'll put them in there when I see them hatch. Then I get a little paintbrush, put it on it. I put it in a bigger cup, and then I go out and get whatever host plant it is and put it in there. I have it in a little teeny cup. Then when they get bigger, I have 12 by 12 netted habitats. So then I'll get like a 9-ounce plastic cup with a lid on, and I poke holes in, and I'll cut the plant and stick it in there. And then I always make sure some of the leaves are touching the side of the habitat in case they fall off, they can crawl back in. And so that's what I do. With the spice bush, that dries out really fast, even with it in water. So I have a very thin white plastic bag over the top of that to keep more humidity in. So, yeah.
2 more questions.
Okay. Yes.
When a butterfly overwinters, what exactly does that mean? What stage is it in and where does it go?
Oh, the only.
Disturbing it?
Okay. Well, question mark, Eastern common, morning cloak, those are some that overwinter. And they go, like I said, they'll be adults and they'll go in wood piles, crevices of trees, overhangs of houses. And so they're like in a diapause, so yeah, and they just stay there for the winter. We have some species that overwinter as eggs, some as caterpillars, some as adults, some as chrysalis, some as cocoons or pupa. So it depends on the species how they overwinter. All this used to be up here, and this is my memory now. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I don't do nothing in my yard. I don't even cut my plants down, until in April. I go and I take my plants and I break them into pieces and drop them back to the ground. So if there's any species on them or bees in the hollow stems, they're still there. I drop them to the ground. When that decomposes, that's adding nitrogen to the soil anyways. I'm not eliminating any species. And then sometimes like in July, before I start having big garden walks, I might buy a little bit of mulch and just kind of the very front, cover that up with some new mulch, because the rest is so full of plants you can't see what it looks like in there anyways, just to kind of top dress it. But yeah, I don't do that until like in April, and then I just drop everything back to the ground. So yeah, that adds nitrogen. Your dead plant material is good. It enriches your soil.
Brenda, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I know the people who are here to hear her are glad you came. Yeah, it's been great. Do you want to say anything you've got?
Oh, yeah, if anybody wants to buy my book, it's $30, or I have a code on here where you can go ahead and scan it to buy it off of Amazon.
And if people want to buy it here, is it strictly cash?
I can do cash, I can do Venmo, I might be able to,
Venmo gets me.
Yeah.
so.
yeah,
And for everybody else, we're gonna break
or
up.
if and I know checks are old fashioned, but I do take checks.
Okay. So
Yeah.
anybody can come up and buy a book until they're sold out. And also, if you can, anybody who's physically able, please take your chair back. Wayne, are there chair stands
Yeah.
available back
No,
there?
I'll take care of
Oh, somebody will help you, but just, we-
Most of the chairs stay where they are.
we wanna, oh, so no, we don't want them to do anything with chairs? Never mind. Never mind the chairs. Thank you.